So this is the basic information that everybody out there in this business should know and understand if they want to be successful. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to go over the basic information in the business that we are in. This is the bare bone basics that everybody out there, if you want to be successful as a reseller, should understand. Digging into what we're going to show you is going to help you succeed. It's going to give you the basic methodology and thoughts on how to get better items. So I've just got some paper down here, and I want to talk about some principles of reselling pretty much anything you could imagine. We're going to draw out something on here, and we're going to discuss the different options. Now, there's 3 basic levels of anything collectible antiques, pretty much anything you sell, really. And that breaks down into percentages. So, level 1, this is the most common one. This is everything that you usually find, the most common stuff. And this equates to about 80% of everything that you find for reselling. All your merch, 80% of merch. Okay, and we'll do it on a bar graph just to show you as well here. That's probably about 80% there. So that's our bar graph. Just put some tone to it so you can see it a little better. So that's the first level there. So that's 80%. This is L1, 80%. Now this is the common stuff. This stuff is very, very common. It's the stuff you run into garage sales, flea markets, the thrift stores, and places like that all the time. Now there's also level 2. This is the next level up, and we'll talk about value-wise in each one of these levels. And this is what I would call as scarce. Anything in here is scarce, and that's about 17% of merch. And let's level 2 here. So we've got another little graph. That's 17%, probably about close in there. And then we've got level 3. And this is what's rare. These are the rare items that you will find. This is about 3% of merch for most people. These are like common category breakdowns. This can go for expensive shoes, expensive clothing, or whatever the case may be. So let's put L3 on here. L3 is going to be this little tiny sliver. That's 3%. So looking at it wise, the most valuable stuff is the least amount of stuff that you will find. Obviously, that's usually what most people would understand as well. Now, let's talk about dollar-wise. The common stuff, I don't buy anything under $15, so it's 15 to right around the 50 mark is the common stuff. These are what I usually can find on a daily basis, 15 to $50 or so. And that's the common stuff that I run into. Now the scarce stuff, that usually runs in the 50 plus to $150. So that's usually what I'm looking at there. So 50 to 150. And then the rare stuff is anything over 150 and up. Now, each area has their own drawbacks. Obviously, this is what you're going to find all the time. Now, level 2 and level 3, if you're just going to the average places, are going to be extremely scarce to find at, say, a thrift store, a common junk flea market, or garage sales. Places like that, usually you only find the $15 to $50 items for the most part. I know there's places where you can go that in some cases you might find way better stuff. Now, obviously, these are scarce to turn up in, common places, garage sales, and the level 3, the rare stuff, are even harder to find out there. I don't go to places usually that the majority of the stuff on the shelves are going to be common stuff. I try not to go to any of those places. I don't go to garage sales. I don't go to thrift stores. It's not worth my time anymore. I try to go after the stuff that's scarcer or rare, of course. I don't find rare any more than most other people. I do look and I buy a lot more quantity, so my odds of finding rare items are higher. I don't go to the common places to source, so again, my odds are much higher. You want to increase the odds that you're going to find level 2 items over level 1 items. You want to drop down the common junk to being, maybe half of what you run into, and obviously scarce and rare items being half of what you run into as well.
It's very hard to do in just the everyday world unless you center in on some, like a niche, for an example. Marbles. Most every marble, just the old glass marbles, most every marble that you run into is going to fall into the common level. Again, percentages are pretty close, I would guesstimate, on what you're going to find that's rare. On the rare level, if it was a marble, it would be some lacy spiral or something, hand-blown, massive size shooter or something. They're going to be maybe $1,000, and that's going to be in the top maybe 1% or less, maybe even only 0.5%. So for every 200 items you find, if it's like 0.5% chance that it's going to be worth a lot of money, you'd have to look through 200 items or more to find one item in the rare category for something like that. So you've got to kind of understand the level of collectibles, the level of what you're selling, whatever it may be. Shirts, the same thing. Most every shirt you run into may be common and in a certain price range structure. Now, I don't sell stuff under $15, so you may be selling shirts that you can get maybe 6-8 profit on. To me, it's not worth it. It may be worth it to you. It's just not worth the time and the effort and the sourcing and all that other stuff to deal with it, and then still worry about return. So most of my category items that I try to purchase are in the level 2 or level 3 categories. It's just what I'm always trying to get. And I've eliminated, as I said, areas that I can't get it in. If I go to an estate sale, my odds of finding level 2, level 3 items are extremely increased over going to, say, a thrift store or a garage sale. If I go to a higher-end antique collectibles auction, I'm much more increased to find items from the rare category section here. It doesn't matter what it is. This is just category speaking wise. No matter what you run into, 80% of that's just going to be the common stuff. 17% or so is going to be scarce. Maybe if you're lucky, 3% will be on the rare side. So you've got to take those numbers, those breakdowns into consideration on everything you do. If you can get mass quantity but still make the volume, level 1 items might be perfect for you because you can list so many of them and you get so many of them for almost nothing that the value of what you get back out of them is horrendously good. It's not usually that case, though. A common item may sit on a shelf just as long as a rare item, too. I know a lot of people are thinking, hey, I buy an expensive item. It's something that I can see sells routinely a couple times a year for a top dollar price on it. Well, that isn't always the case. The rarer the item is, the less people chances are willing to spend the money to buy it. Let's say I've got a super rare action figure that's worth $5,000. Jawa in the vinyl cape on a card, mint on card. Something like that's $5,000-$10,000, I would imagine. How many people out there, you have to think, are willing to spend that kind of money on it? The amount of people that will invest $100,000, say, in a comic book or a sports card, a trading card of any kind, is very slim and limited when you take into account the massive amount of people into that collectible field. So sometimes there may only be a handful of people on the entire planet that want something. Even if you see 2 sold items that sold for a ton of money, there may not be a third person who wants that item. Every time you go up to the scarcer items in a niche, there may be fewer people that actually want and can afford it. So you may shell out a ton of money for a $1,000 comic book thinking you're going to get your money back right away, and then it sits there forever because no one else at that level wants another copy of it. Everybody who wanted one has one. You know, if the market's saturated with the comics or a collectible or a specific brand of tennis shoes or a shirt or a book or anything you sell, rare doesn't mean valuable either for the most part. I know I'm setting a price on here. That's the average for something that I can sell. There are items that I run into that I know have sold in the past for $1,000, $2,000 that I'm not even able to get $200 or $300 out of because there's no one else in the market that wants it, or they haven't seen my item, or I haven't reached the right venue to attract that person's interest. That's why many times when you list something for, say, as a bin, a buy it now option, you'll do far better because there may only be one single person online who sees your auction, and he may or she may be the only one who bids on it. So it may only go for your opening bid. They might expect there to be other people wanting this rare item, but there may not. So again, if it was a bin, they may spend a lot more money on it because of those factors. That's why I usually try to do a bin on every single thing we do, because everything doesn't have a huge demand. Again, rarity means nothing if no one wants it. So always be considering the level of categories you're looking into. Price means everything to me. I would rather get a lot more value for my buck and move up to scarce or rare items. Again, it's something you're going to have to learn the skill to do. If you're selling in a niche, the more you know about the niche, the better chances you have of figuring out where to get scarcer items more often and increase this percentage of merch to 25, 30% of the time you're finding scarce items because you know where to source for those specific niches. Anybody can find the common item in any category in any niche, but moving up to increase the odds of getting scarce and rare items is where all the effort should be made. Even if it means getting a picker or spending far more time researching on your laptop, your phone, or something before you ever step foot in a sourcing venue. I've eliminated a ton of sourcing venues because they don't get me anything but common $10, $15 items. And to me, I can get those all day long. It's obviously more beneficial to find better items. So this is a way I've looked at it. If I'm not finding anything but all common, 95% of what I find in a specific venue is all common, I usually don't go back to it. If, let's say, another example, I go to some other place and 40% of what I run into, old records, let's say, 78 records, 40% of the items I find in this other venue are all in the scarce $50 to $150 range, I'm going to go there and just avoid the places where I only find the common stuff. Sometimes you'll find a honeypot, a honey hole, I guess people would call it, where you find rare items far more often than anywhere else you go. That should be where you would invest your time. Now, for like big time sourcing, when you get heavily into a niche, you can go to their conventions, you can go to shows, you can get in good with dealers, and you can buy merchandise straight from other sellers sometimes, or collectors far better, and get more rare items than anything else right off the bat. You're going to pay up for it. This is the breakdown I look at. This is basically like a pros and cons help list so you can figure out the best places to go. Keep track of all the stuff you're getting at places and go to the places where you get the better stuff. You find more scarce items, more rare items. Look at it on a percentage basis. If all you're finding is common junk and you never find anything good, stop going to those places. Try to increase the percentage of level 2 items and level 3 items that you have. Raise it to 25%, 30%. Raise this up to 5 or even 10% would be a greater push to you. Some items that we sell and routinely buy in bulk, 50% of the items that we purchase all at once are in the scarce and rare category, and that is what drives our business the most.
Well, there we have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
When entering the world of art, you'd be smart to dress the part. Gentlemen prefer hands, with all the ladies draped in crepe. The artist loves the human shape. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. Hanes will make you smooth and silky, shapely, sexy. Wear a pair and you could be captured for posterity. Gentlemen prefer Hanes.